Hello, everyone. This is Erica Ender, and I'm so happy to be here today, invited by CSAC for this Wise Women Wednesday that is going to be so special. We're going to have two guests, two colleagues that I admire so much and that I think are extremely talented, extremely beautiful inside and out, and extremely smart as well. We're going to have today Gaby Moreno from Guatemala and Charlene Tole from Dominican Republic. Girls, so nice to have you here. So nice for us to be, together, even though we're not together, together through technology with this, new challenging times. How are you, Gaby?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Oh, Erika, it's so great to see you.
Where are you at?
I'm in LA. I've been stuck here for forever. Seems like forever. But yeah, as good as one can be given the circumstances. But gosh, just happy. So happy to be here with you guys and be able to talk a little bit. It's gonna feel so nice.
Yes, ma'am. And you, Charlene, where are you? In LA as well?
No, I live in LA, but right now I'm in Miami. So we're all in different time zones. I'm very, very happy to be here with both of you, whom I also admire tremendously. And so thank you, CSAC, for making this happen. It's exciting. I know I'm going to learn a lot. So I know I'm going to talk, but I'm here to learn so much from both of you.
That's what it's about, right? We keep learning every day. So I'm right now in Panama. I lost my flight. This has been a crazy day. I'm here because I had a bunch of things to do with my foundation. And at the end, I ended up losing my plane, but here we are.
You should tell us about your foundation too.
I'll tell you that later.
Love to hear it. Yeah,
I'll tell you that later. But to tell you the truth, for me, doing music is a vehicle to do good, and I try to use my talents with a purpose. That's something that my parents taught me at home, me and my sister. So I always give that credit, to them. Yeah. And I think we all have such a, powerful tool in our hands. And there are some, questions that I have about that too, because I know that's important for you girls too. But I would like to, to start this with your stories, to know a little bit where you come from, how you found out that you had this dream of doing what you do, and knowing a little bit of your struggles, your challenges, your victories, everything together. So let's start with you, Gaby. Is that okay? You were born and raised in Guatemala, right? Central America, just like me. I'm from Panama.
That's right. Central America.
So what's your story? You've been in the US for 20 years now?
Yes, which is crazy to say that. It's just like, oh man, time really does fly. So I was born and raised in Guatemala. And I've been singing since I was a little kid. My mom was the one who sort of discovered that I had an ability, a musical ability, because I don't really come from a musical family. My mother was doing TV and radio, and she still has a radio show. So she's a great public speaker. But
in Guatemala still? She lives there?
Yeah, my whole family's in Guatemala. No, I'm here by myself. So basically, she was in that world, like TV and radio and like a maestra de ceremonias, like that kind of thing, locutora, like her whole life, still is, and but tone deaf, like when I say tone deaf, like I really mean it. And she no shame. She knows it, and it's so funny because when I was a kid, I used to tell her Mom, harmonize with me, and she was like, okay, and she really tried, and no, it was just
inherit talent from someone, at least a voice or something. My dad and mom, they both sing very well. They're doctors, though. They didn't dedicate their life to this, but they fell in love with each other singing. Yeah. So I got, the voice inherited from them. I don't know what's in your case.
So in my case, my father, he has a good voice and he has a good ear. Not a professional musician, but he was a promoter. He would bring artists to play concerts in Guatemala, and he did this for a very long time in the 80s. He was bringing artists like Timbiriche back in the day, and Magneto, and
Hola,
Luis
hola.
Miguel, like the first time he came to Guatemala, like my dad was the promoter who brought him. So like, so I was surrounded by that whole world of TV, radio, concerts, and all of this, but not really. There was no music in the house. You know what I mean? Like there was not like there were no instruments lying around.
Sisters and
And so,
brothers, maybe?
sorry.
Sisters and brothers?
So my older sister, who's 2 years older than me, she's also not musical. And my younger sister is, but she's 10 years younger than me. So my childhood was just me and my older sister. And like I said, like I was just kind of, I think the way my mom discovered it was like I was at home singing some classical music that she had like some cassette that she was playing, and I was singing, and she was like, wait a second, are you like singing like these classical, opera singers? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just kind of singing. And she was like, wait a second, what's, she, again, no musical ear. So she took me to voice lessons. And this was when I was like around 6-7 years old. And then the teacher told her like, no, yeah, she has this ability, and we gotta like, anyway. So I started singing classical music when I was 7, 8, and then when I was about 9, 10 years old, my dad would ask me to open concerts for like these big concerts. Like I was
You got it at home. That's
this is a funny story. I was 10 years old when I opened a concert for Ricky Martin in Guatemala. It was crazy.
In my country, we call that a big palanca. You know?
So it was insane because here I was like, I was 10 years old, and I wasn't writing songs at the time. I was just like, I think I was singing like, covers, like Disney songs. I was really into Disney songs, like musical songs and things like that. But there is
something before we switch a little bit to Charlene and know about her childhood as well. Yeah. So we can, come back and forth. But was your voice as particular as it is right now? Because I have to tell you that I totally love your voice, and you know it. I have to say that if you let me do this, before Gabby was as famous, I would beg for Gabby to sing my songs in order to play them, because
I was singing your songs. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Oh my God, like whatever she used to sing for sure would be placed, the songs got pitched out of your particular voice, the way you interpret things, and the way you connect. You're so amazing, and I totally love your voice. So was that the voice that you had when you were little, like you had that particular tone, or you found that throughout time?
I found that through time. I mean, you hear these songs that I was singing when I was 10 years old, and I sound like a squirrel. Like it's it's hilarious. No, because soon after that, when I was 13, I discovered blues and jazz and soul music, and that just changed everything for me. But even then, I listened to like some recordings that I did when I was like 15 and 16, and I was really into like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, blah, blah, blah. And even then, like I'm like, I was singing differently. I was still trying to find my voice, and it took me a while. Like, and then when I came here to LA, I decided to come here just to find opportunities in music. I came here as a student. I went to Musicians Institute, a music school, and it took a while to kind of find my voice. Like, yeah, I'll tell you later if you want to know more about that story, but like I don't want to talk forever.
Let's just wait for a second and understand the story of Charlene, that was born and raised in Dominican Republic, right? Did you have music at home, or was it something that you just had,
Hearing Gabby's story, there's like a lot of similarities, because I come from a family that had no musical inclinations whatsoever.
Let me tell you, Dominican Republic, just like Cuba and Puerto Rico, they have music in their veins. It doesn't matter if you're singing or not, you have a musical ear, right?
We would wake up, my mom would wake us up with music, and every time the family gathered, there's a lot of music there. But it's not like either of my parents were into the musical careers or knew anything or had any connections. I was not opening for Ricky Martin at 10, that's for sure.
That was
because I literally they had no connections to that part of the world, so I was very alone, and they couldn't even understand it. But I'm a very stubborn person, so even from a very young age, I wanted to do music. So they had to get in line, and then when I was 12, they got me into classes with Maria Remola. She's sorry, this is little Charlie over here. a amazing like classical teacher. So I learned how to sing opera as well first.
Wow.
I was classically trained, so I was singing all this like boleros or opera type of thing. And then when I wanted to sing popular music, I didn't know how to do it. So that was my first like big struggle. I was like, I can sing like that's why I started doing even like musical theater because that was easy. But when I wanted to do my own music, I was very stuck because I felt that I sounded a little bit too traditional for what I wanted. So it took me a while as well to find my own voice and my own tone and like my own signature sound. But yeah, after struggling so much in DR and just like trying to do musical theater, the first time I started writing my own music was when I moved out, when I landed in Miami, where I lived for a couple of years. And then I moved to LA, same as Gabby. So it's kind of similar, but, you know, a little bit different.
Yeah, I know for sure. I mean, I like to bring this because I think that every tree has a root.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're a consequence of what we lived when we were little, you know, of what we or our souls and minds ate when we were little, to say it in a metaphorical way. So I always like to bring that because in my case, for example, I mean, I was a mix of everything that I used to hear at home as well. As I told you, like my mom and dad, they're both doctors, but they do come from a musical family, both of them, musical backgrounds. My grandma on my mom's side was an opera singer as well. And then my dad and mom, they came from different, you know, countries. My dad was half American and my mom was Brazilian. So the only common language that they found to speak to each other was through singing. So my mom learned Spanish by learning Spanish songs, and my dad learns Portuguese through Portuguese music, I mean, Brazilian music.
Yeah.
So it definitely has to do with also my personality, but my upbringing, my musical upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And we are, as I was saying, like a consequence of everything we hear and see. And of course, through time is when we get to experiment different things and find ourselves. So later on, you get to find that tone, Gabby, right? And then when did you decide, like, I want to write my own songs as well? I want to be a singer-songwriter, and I loved when everybody saw me, and I love that I was sharing stage, you know, at least opening the being an opening act for Ricky Martin. When was that, like, the right moment when you said, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna risk everything, and I'm gonna go to the U.S. and follow my dreams and leave my family behind?
Honestly, like when I was around that age, when I was 10 and I was getting up on these stages and like playing, I mean, singing for, I mean that
What artist did you do the opening acts for? Like, I love your dad.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, so we have rehearsals for real life out there later on.
Here's the thing that in Guatemala, I don't know if this is still the case, but there was a law back then that any opening act for an international act had to be from Guatemala. Yeah. And it was very common to have more than one opening act, right? So, and these concerts were they were starting early. Like that's why I was able to do it at 10, you know, because I was singing like at, you know, 5 p.m. or whatever, and then there would be another act and another act, and then Ricky like at 8 or whatever. It was almost like a festival. But I remember, like, even when I was singing, there was already, like, you know, 5,000 people in this like little auditorium, and yes, I was
5,000 people
nervous.
Is a little auditorium, dear. A little auditorium is like 300 people.
It was the Plaza de Toros that we had in Guatemala back then, and it was big. And I remember, like, being super scared and nervous before, of course, but then once I was on stage, I was like, oh, like, just transformed and just loving that feeling. And I remember, like, thinking, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And so, like, I remember my mom telling me that I would write her letters saying, like, what are you gonna do when I'm, like, all grown up and I'm living in the United States and you're not with me? Like, I just knew, like, when I was a kid, I knew that I was not going to be living in Guatemala. I was gonna find a way to get out, and I was really like had my mindset on the U.S. because I really loved blues and jazz and soul so much. Like when I discovered that music at around 13, that was when I was like, I need to go to the country where these musical styles come from and like really absorb them. And, you know, it was just my
Were
thing.
you already writing your own melodies and lyrics back then when you were 13?
Yeah.
Or how did you start? Because you play the guitar as well, you play some
Right.
instruments, right?
Yeah, I picked up the guitar at 13 and I started writing around that time, like 13, 14, 15. And I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I was only writing in English. Like I know, crazy.
That was the reference. That's what you were hearing all the time.
That's what I was hearing. That's what I loved. To me at the time, writing a bluesy or soulful song in Spanish was like, ooh, no, that's not gonna work. And so I was like, no, it has to be English. And I was really into like Tracy Chapman and Sheryl Crow and like, you know, just like these alternative artists, right? Like singer-songwriters. And yeah, I didn't write my first Spanish song until I was here in LA and years after I got here to LA. So I'll tell you about it.
When you were hearing all these people, when did you find that particular, like I go back to that because it's so important. That's the authenticity of how we sound. Who were those artists that you were trying to imitate or that were your reference in order for you to find your own sound?
You know, at the time I was really, it kind of went in phases because I was really into old blues and old jazz, like listening to like, you know, Coco Taylor and Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha and all that. But I was playing guitar and I was like, okay, I want to try to do so. And then I was listening a lot to Fiona Apple. Man, I was like obsessed when that first record came out. Like it just, and like I said, Tracy Chapman and sort of like the Lilith Fair era, you know, all of those artists. And yeah, they were like,
they all help, or there was like a specific one that you say, okay, I want to be like her.
There was not one specific, like I just remember having like a bunch of different artists that, oh, I love what she does and I love what she does. And I wonder if I could just kind of mix all of this and
put it in a blender and make
my own thing. Yeah. And I remember when I was 18, I was signed by Warner Brothers here in the US. And they were like, oh, at that time, like J-Lo had just come out and they were like, oh, we want to make you like because they saw me as Latina and they're like, we want to make you like a J-Lo, but that plays guitar and like an alternative kind of J-Lo. And I was like, sure, okay. I was still trying to figure it out. I didn't know. It took a while.
What about you, Charlene? Like, when did you find your voice? I know that you've made also several things as an actress.
Yes.
You were from music into acting. What's the story? When did you find the right moment that you said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or at least I want to try this?
You know, being in Dominican Republic, it was kind of hard because we don't have that many platforms, at least when I was growing up.
You do if you want to sing merengue.
That's true, but I wasn't feeling that connection with merengue because my influences were very much, I would say, pop or more global in a way. Because of the TV I watched or the radio I listened to and the records my parents had in the house. So, you know, I was listening to a lot of classical kind of things, but I've always been a writer. Since I was 13, I was writing, but not musically. Like I was writing poetry or prosa. You know, for me, I've always been addicted to reading and writing since I was a little girl. That was my pastime, not watching TV, but just reading and eating books up. So for me, writing was a natural form of expression, but I never thought of just like putting music to what I was writing, because for me, it was very foreign. I had nobody to teach me how to do it or anybody I could see doing it and use as an example. I had never been in a studio. I just didn't know how music was made, to be honest. When I moved to Miami, it was the first time I had that experience, because the only experience musically I had was live music with musical theater, because you have the band live and you're singing live for the audience. You don't go through that part of the process. But when I moved here, I did a soap opera called Pasión Prohibida. And I had the idea of writing a song for my character because I was very shy to do my own music. So I needed a character to be the front of the whole thing. So I wrote a song with other songwriters, like talking about her feelings and talking about what she was going through, because she was supposed to be the antagonist of like the young relationship. And I was like, yeah, but she has things she's dealing with. She's not bad because she wants to be. So I want to explain all of this through a song. I don't know why. And we did the song, and like the Telemundo loved it, and they started putting the song in every episode, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. And that's literally how I got, to like started doing this. And just in DR, I did kind of do some music, but it was literally my poems. I just try to like sing them, but I didn't have a knowledge of structure. All of that came in when I started going into the studio and working with other songwriters. And I would say that I learned most from female songwriters, to be honest, because I think they're just more open and patient, and they're more giving and nurturing. That's my personal experience, but that helped a lot. So that's for me. It's like that's why I see all my other female songwriters like a sisterhood, and like I love the community that we've been able to build and how we just help each other out. But at the end of the day, I think it's like everybody hears something different in a song. So that's the beauty of it, that what I'm hearing, the melodies that I'm hearing or the lyrics that I'm coming up with, they're very mine. So it's always a value, like something of value that you can just bring in.
Is your family back in Dominican Republic as well? So you came here pursuing your dreams. Like that's something that the three of us have in common. It's not that you guys came with your family or studied here or whatever. You just came pursuing your dreams.
Yep.
In my case, when I was like 9 years old, because I'm hearing what you guys say and we have so much in common. And then like you girls share your histories, all of you, because it's so interesting to understand and for other people to also empower themselves, because everything has a beginning. Mm-hmm. We're not like famous from one day to another, or we don't record an album from one day to another. It takes a process. Mm-hmm. And people have to understand that. I remember when I was like 9, that is when I started like putting melodies and lyrics together. Can you believe like Caballo de Troya, that book, when I was little, like at 9, I was reading it, as well as I was reading Gustavo Adolfo Becker, like you have no idea, and Pablo Neruda, and I was so small, I was so little.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the more you read, the better you write. That helps a lot. You are what you nurture your life with.
Your language and the words.
Starting to put melodies and lyrics together and seeing, I always say this story, seeing how Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan were taking over the world with conga. And, and honoring their roots, not giving up who we are, And I said to my mom watching them on TV, when I grow up, I want the world to sing my songs like that, Yeah. I'm gonna go to Miami and I'm gonna knock on Emilio Estefan's door, and that never happened. That really never happened. I had to do my own path. But it's beautiful because when I get into the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame, we were friends already there, and they were the ones who sent the video to introduce me. So life is a beautiful circle,
So great.
And I bet that you have stories like that. For example, you had a duet with Ricardo Arjona that was also a big break for you, and you were already in LA. How do you get there?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a pretty funny full circle story too. So remember I told you how my dad was a promoter and he brought Timbiriche one time? Well, Ricardo Arjona opened the concert for them. This was like in 1980.
What?
Yeah.
Cool.
No, this was when he was just starting, right? He was like completely unknown.
Do you mean like when he was singing Jesús es verbo no sustantivo, or before that?
I can't remember. All I know is that I was 5 years old. And I just remember
like now, can we ask?
I'm 39.
Charlene?
So huh?
Charlene? 37? 46. I'm the oldest. So I was 5 years old, and I just remember like hearing a lot about Ricardo, because he was kind of like becoming well known in Guatemala and like opening a lot of concerts. So he was opening for Timbiriche.
And my dad was a promoter of this concert, so he brought me, and I was backstage, and I was just kind of hanging there. And I mean, I don't remember this, but my parents told me that I would say, yo quiero cantar con Ricardo Alfombra. Like, this is when I was 5 years old, and I would see him on stage, and I would just tell my mom, like, I want to go sing with him. So crazy, right? I never saw him after that. Of course, he became huge, and it wasn't a really important, Guatemalan figure, and that was that. And then 10 years ago, I just get this call from him, and just saying, like, hey, like, my family introduced me to your music, because I was 10 years ago, I had already released 2 independent albums, and I was doing a lot of concerts here in the US and in Europe, but I had not had the chance to do anything for Latin America. Like, I was singing songs in Spanish, but I was like, I don't know why, I was just kind of like an indie artist here in LA, and just kind of like doing my thing here. I had already opened, here's another thing, I opened a tour for Tracy Chapman, which was huge for me, because I told you, like, I was, been a huge fan. So I was doing those kinds of things. And so when he called me, he was like, oh, like, a lot of people are talking about you in Guatemala. And so my family showed me your music, and I love it. And I have this song, and I want to see if, like, you'd like to sing with me. And I was like,
oh my God. Like, okay, I won the lottery right now.
It was insane. So yeah.
Kind of like the feeling, like, I admire him so much, and it's going to be great for me to sing a song with him. How did you feel at the moment?
I felt like, why me? You could just go to any, like, super famous artist. Like, I'm a nobody. Like, why are you reaching out to me? Like, that's how I felt. But I also, like, I remember, like, when he got on the phone and he started talking to me, it just felt like we had known each other forever. Like, he was that just warm, and just, incredibly just generous and nice and sweet. And so he was like, he actually said, I'm going to send you the demo, listen to it, and let's just try it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, see how you feel. He did tell me, like, I want you to be comfortable singing this song. And he didn't say that it was going to be a single. He was just, I just thought, like, I'm just going to sing a song on his album. That's it, right? And so, like, I think a couple weeks later, he flew me out to Mexico City, because he had his studio there. And I met him there. That was the first time, after, I was 5 years old. Yeah. First time seeing him. Yeah. And I recorded the song right there. And he just, like, freaking took off. It was crazy. The next thing I knew, I was flying again to Guatemala to film the video. And it just,
and you became, like, the pride of the new generation of Guatemala, because everybody was speaking about you. I mean, not only in Guatemala, but in all of Latin America. You won a Grammy also, like, you've been out there doing so many things. And one thing that was calling my attention as well is that you're so versatile, that you were, making your career in Spanish, and at the same time you have this trio, right?
I do, yes. Yeah, we
do have it?
We still have it. I mean, they're
clone yourself.
They're 2 of my best friends, and they're incredible singers, and they each have, like, their own thing too. But we love singing with each other, so we started this sort of side project. Like, we started it over 10 years ago, and so whenever we have time, we get together and we record little things here and there. And yeah, I love that.
What's the year when you won Best New Artist?
Best New Artist was in 2013. So after I sang the song with Ricardo, I told you I was an independent artist. So he signed me to his label that he had just started, Metamorphosis. And he was like, look, I'm starting my label for myself. I'm not starting a label to, like, start signing artists or anything. Like, it's just so that I can release my albums on my own and not have to deal with, like, major labels. And I was like, cool. And he said, you don't have right now a deal. Like, I'd love to, like, help you out. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So I put out this album, Postales, in 2012. It was my very first album that I did completely in Spanish. So it was like my introduction to Latin America. And this was my 3rd album. And Dan Warner, rest in peace, our dear friend, he produced it. And yeah, that was after that I received the Best New Artist nomination for the Latin Grammys.
That's amazing. And Charlene, did you have like a big break with someone else, like in the industry? Was music pulling you while you were doing acting, or was it something that you saw that there was a big break through acting and to come into the entertainment business, or you're just versatile and you like both things? What
No,
happened? Because that's also a big break for people to know you through, soap operas and everything, to
I,
get to get used to your face.
yeah, I love both things. To be honest, I'm very, very committed to both careers. They both pull at me equally, which means I don't have a life, because both of you know how hard it is to just do one side of the career. Imagine having two careers. It's literally 24/7 on it, but I
Yeah.
love it. I enjoy it. I have fun through it. So it's not like a burden at all. But now that she mentions her experience with Arjona, like some of the features I've had are like super random. I remember that Don Omar, whom I've admired for so long, he wrote a DM to me on Twitter. He was like, "Hey, I have this song. Would you wanna do this song with me?" And I honestly thought, this is a fan account.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
It's so funny.
and I was like, "Oh shit, this is him." I can't.
He has the blue, the blue mark.
What is going on? And at that moment, I was shooting a show called Star for Fox that had a lot of it had a musical inclination as well. There was a Lenny Kravitz in it. It had Queen Latifah, so it was very interesting. But like contract-wise, I couldn't really release my own music because I was releasing music through the show at that time. But I remember I went to the producer, Lee Daniels, and I was like, "Look, Lee, I know I'm not supposed to be releasing any music, but this is Don Omar. Like, you need to let me do this, because this is not gonna be like negative in any way." This is a really good opportunity, so please give me a permit or something. I need to do this. And he was so nice that he was okay. But I was working all through the whole week. So I remember Don Omar was like, "Okay, come fly to Miami this weekend and we'll record the song in my studio here." So I flew in. The song was like a difference to Gabi. This was like not on my range. It was super high. Like the song is super, super high, because I had to do the octave up, like higher from Don Omar. But I pulled it. It was it was interesting, and it was such a great opportunity for me to start doing this type of collaborations in that type of world, like in the urban side. And it was fun, and it's the song that's a beautiful song that did really well. But it's really funny how this type of collaborations sometimes just pop out of nowhere, and people think that you're doing so much, and it's just like literally God sent. It was just like there on the DM.
And were you pursuing music, or you just, acting came as an accident in your life, or you were pursuing that as well?
I've been pursuing both careers from the get-go, since I started. I think the new addition would be songwriting, and it's been in for a few years. And I would say it's one of the things I enjoy the most, to be honest. Like, I love being in the studio. I love writing. For me, it's so therapeutic. I don't know. I really enjoy it.
The best psychologist ever.
Anything I'm going through, I know I can express through a word, like through a song, through words. For me, that's like, there's so much magic in that.
It changes your mood and it heals completely. You know that now that you're talking about the two careers, sometimes life surprises you in so many ways. And when I started my career, like in a formal way, I released through Sony Central America. Back then I was like 16 years old, and I was singing tamborera, which is one of the rhythms of my country's, dressed with the pollera, which is, our custom. And then that's how my career started formally, singing in this Venezuelan program called Sábado Sensacional that was very famous for Latin America. Mm-hmm. When we were celebrating the 500 years of the discovery of America, the Americas, right? So I was representing Panama. And then I'm at this presidential summit of the Central American presidents. And then the PA just had a problem and it stopped. and I was up there, you know, with the mic, and I started improvising and telling jokes and whatever while I got the track back. And there were two TV producers that saw me and started pursuing me and talking to my dad and mom, saying, we want her on camera. You have to bring her to, you know, cast to one of the biggest TV channels in Panama. And that's how, by saying no, no, no 1,000 times, because I was just focused on singing and writing my own songs, developing that kind of career, my dad said, you know what, what's the problem? Just go out there and see, give yourself a chance to, you know, try something new, and you don't have to quit, you know, music, just try it. And it was an accident in my life. That's why I was asking about your acting career. And I've been doing, you know, as a parallel career for 30 years, something on screen and back screen, because I got to edit and produce and everything else. And it helped me so much. So sometimes we just have to embrace the surprises that life, you know, brings to us and use it the best way, as long as we don't lose the track. And talking about producing, I know that you produce, Gabi.
Yeah, Gabi.
Something that I wanted to, you know, tell me about. What kind of music do you produce? Like, you produce your own albums, or are you doing things for someone else?
So this is how it started. Like back in the day when I was about 20 years old, I was working a lot. I was signed to a publishing company. Back then it was Famous Music. Now it's Sony ATV.
I was signed to them too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
With Ira Jaffe and all that.
Sorry?
Ira Jaffe and all that. Those times.
Ira Jaffe, exactly. And I remember, like, they were sending me on like a bunch of co-writing sessions. I must have written more than 100 songs, like in those few years that I was with them. And it was funny because I would say like 90% of those writing sessions were with men, and who were producers as well. And so I would record these songs, and since I was writing with so many different people, all of these songs were just like, the productions were all over the place, because it was always these men who were producing these songs. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, that's their job. And looking back, like, it never occurred to me, like, why aren't there women producers? Like, it never. It was always like, oh no, that's what it is. Like, producers are men.
My female producer, or my female engineer, or my female songwriter. That's not the usual. Yeah,
exactly. And so my first album, which was very scary for me to put out, because I had already been through 3 major labels. Signed with 3 major labels that the deals went nowhere. Thankfully, I never got to record an album. I always stayed in the stage of writing songs, and never got to actually record an album. But so when it was time to finally,
but when you did it, you won a Grammy. Hello.
Well, when it was time to put out my first album, which was independent, and I did it at a friend's house. I remember that it was my friend. He was like, "Oh, I'll produce it." And it's this guy. He was actually an incredible drummer, and he produced it. And so, but it felt good. It felt like, oh, okay, I'm working finally. I finally have. I felt like I had a say, even though he was producing it. He was listening to my ideas, because before that, I remember working with this one producer back in the day where we were working on the song, and I was like, hey, so I have some ideas of how we can produce this song. And he said to me, and I kid you not, he said to me, like, so what? My mom has ideas. And that just, like, it crushed me. Like, I remember, like, crying and going like, oh my God, like, okay, no, I'm a woman. I'm never going to be able to have ideas or be a producer, you know? Actually, it wasn't even crossing my mind to be a producer. I was just like thinking, like, I have ideas, that's all. So anyways, all this to say that when it came time to produce my second album, I was like, I'm gonna do this myself. Like, I can do this. Like, it's not that hard. All you have to do is just have strong ideas of what you want to do. And so I did it on my second album. Third album, it was Dan Werner, which I adored, and it was like brilliant working with him. It was so beautiful. Fourth album was my Christmas album, and I also produced it myself. Fifth album, it was Gabe Roth from the Daptone Records, from the Dap Kings. So I wanted to do this album, Illusion it was called. That was the one that was nominated for a Grammy. and it was done all with analog equipment. Like we did it all to tape, and it was like a very specific thing that I was looking for, and he was like amazing at that, so I worked with him. So after that, I had this sort of itch, like I want to produce, but not my music. I want to produce other people. Like I just had this thing in me. And so I met this girl from Guatemala, and she was an incredible singer-songwriter. And I said to her, hey, come to LA, let's produce your EP. And that was the first time that I produced somebody else. And I started doing it more, and like, you know, another artist from Guatemala, same thing. I started working with them and producing their album. The last year, actually, and this is again another full circle moment, Ricardo Arjona came to me and he's like, hey, I have this song. And I was like, oh, he's gonna ask me to sing with him again? Like, what's happening? And he's like, I want you to produce it. And I was like,
God,
what? Like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, no, I know, like, you know, you have like, I know you've produced your music, but I want you to produce this song. It's a very bluesy song, and I know that that's like your world, or at least something that you really understand and you love. And you have like your network of musicians in LA, and I want it to be you, like your production. And I swear to God, like that was like just so amazing. Such an amazing feeling, you know, to have like such a big artist like him, a male artist, asking a you know, a female colleague to be a producer of his was really
crazy how we're in the 2020s and still people see a difference in genres.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it's so, and I want to point something before I ask you something, Shirlene. Before I had my big break in music, which was like, there were two things at the same time. I got to write the English version of A Puro Dolor, when it was like a smash hit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like I went straight, my debut in the industry was straight to Billboard Hot 100. And I wasn't expecting that out of that version, you know? And besides that, like months later, like very, very close, I got my big break with Chayanne. They are male people singing something where a woman has written, you know?
Yeah.
He recorded Candela, which I co-wrote with Donato Poveda.
Yeah.
Before I got those big breaks in my career that really put me out there as a songwriter and opened the doors for me.
Yeah.
I used to send a lot of songs, you know, and I would, I mean, at the beginning of my career here was so terrible because I lost everything in Panama. I was robbed. The apartment that I got went with my husband back in the day because I got married very young. When I was here in the US for like the first month, someone got there and robbed everything that we had. So I had no choice. I had to stay. I mean, I wanted to stay and pursue my dreams, but then I had nothing to go back to, which I think it's a blessing at the ending. But at the moment it was like, okay, everything I have, I lost. Then I have to knock on doors and go to every single label for them to listen to my music, and every single publishing. And what I got all the time was, you're too young. I was 22, 23. You're a woman doesn't know how to write for a man. You should change your hair. You should do this. You should do that, you know? And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna get into this industry as a songwriter through the back door. Mm-hmm. What I would do is, instead of, when I saw how people were reacting when I used to send the song signed by me, because I mean, my savings, you know, ended after everything that happened. And 9 months later in the US, when nothing is happening, you know that money goes like this, even breathing costs you. So when that happened, I said, you know what I'm gonna do is, instead of receiving these responses of, your song is good, but it's too feminine, or no responses at all, I'm gonna ask my male friends to sing the songs, and I'm gonna send it to another project and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And then my song started to get placed.
Wow.
So, and I would put E. Ender on the CDs and the lyrics to make sure that they didn't know that it was a woman. Oh, wow. You know? But right after I got in the productions, I would say, hey, my name is not E. Ender, it's Erica Ender, and I'm a woman, and I can write for a man, you know? So there's always a way around in this industry, but it has been difficult. I've been here since 1998, and that's something that I wanted to ask you too, Shirlene. What are the biggest challenges that you think you've had to face within the industry as a woman?
Yeah, you know, since I got into the pop urban world, that's basically male dominated, it was a struggle because First of all, most of the producers, they would classify their tracks, female tracks, male tracks, and obviously the female tracks weren't the hottest ones. So I would go into the producers and I'd be like, they'd be like, oh, we have these for the females. So I'd be like, no, 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 stop right there. Show me what you have for the men. I want to hear that. That's the first thing I learned because I would see the difference. It was like so obvious. I'm like, bro, you're like, you're not gonna give me, you know, like, no, I want the real good stuff. That was the first thing. The second thing I noticed is that I got signed by a Universal first and we were working and everything, but I would see that in none of the sessions that were organized by labels or like by the big people, we would have girls ever. Like there were no girls in the sessions. And I was like, well, like we're gonna be writing for me. I'm a girl. Wouldn't it be helpful to have another girl in the room? I like just thinking, you know, out loud, like that's just logical. But it just didn't seem to bother anyone. And I didn't know many female songwriters because I was just getting in, so I had no contacts. But through friends, I started to meet female songwriters and I'm like, wow, it's so easy working with the girls. It's just so fast. It's so fast. And no shade to my man because I've had a lot of support from men. I've had great songwriters and great producers support my career and I love them. It has nothing to do with that, but I really felt it was not 50-50. There was definitely a lot missing and we're missing out on hearing female voices in these songs. And they would even do camps for other female artists and you would see the photo at the end and it's just one girl and 20 guys. And I'm like,
that has happened to me 1,000 times.
I know, and it makes no sense. So what I did was that I became friends by not like intentionally, just happened with all these female songwriters. So whenever they were gonna create my sessions, I'd be like, wait, how about we put this girl in? Wait, how about we put this one here? Wait, how about I want to do this one with this girl, you know, and just have both perspectives because for me that's important. And as an artist, I think that's the best thing we can do to, you know, make the voices of females heard. We need to bring them in. We need to just, hey, wait a minute, this girl is super talented. Because I'm not doing anybody any favors at the end of the day. I'm not doing it this because I want to be a feminist. I'm doing it because honestly, work-wise, it's better. It's much better to have both flavors, if we could say there, both point of views. And sometimes with my friends, my male artists, they would show me songs and I'd be like, they would be like, oh, this is a song for like I wrote to flatter women. And I'm like, yeah, but that, what you're saying there is unbelievably unflattering. How about we change it to this, that? And it's like, they wouldn't even see those things. And when Despacito happened, that was such a huge song. And I'm like, isn't anybody seeing what it happens when you have both, you know, like the male and the female brain working together?
Yes. That, I was gonna point that, especially because I really felt that whenever a man opens up in order to say, okay, what is it that you girls want to hear? You know, you have to understand what we want to hear. Don't impose whatever we want to hear. And at the end, we complement each other. You know, we have to be in the studio, not competing, but sharing. Art is meant to be shared and it's meant to be respected. And then we as women have a very challenging, you know, career, you know, to be amongst men. But at the same time, when you understand that we're here to complement each other, that is not about ego, that is about, you know, let me show you how we want to be treated. Let me show you how we want you to tell this to us. And let me make a difference. So at the end, this is a business of emotions. That's what I always say. And whenever you get to the right emotion, people get addicted to your music. And that's kind of what happened with Despacito as well. That was a great idea that Fonsi brought with, you know, splitting the syllables, but as well, he was open to write a lyrics, you know, that had a woman behind to, you know, open his career towards what he was looking, the urban world, but with a melody that would keep his voice, that is a very, you know, that has a lot of quality and range out there, by being dressed by the musical codes of nowadays. And look at what happened. So at the end, I'm telling you, you're totally right. This is a business of emotions, and whatever you say out there, even if you think that people are not paying attention to the lyrics, the message is in there. And
Yeah.
that's a question that I have for you as well, Gabby, because coming from this, classical background and all the music that you've heard that is so, special and elite,
Mhm.
I bet that you have something to say as an artist, as a singer-songwriter, that maybe, I don't know if you've written songs that have a social, message, or I want to know what's your legacy? What do you want to leave, attached to your name and last name?
What's funny is that I just realized that I don't really have like a lot of romantic love songs. Not that I have anything against them, but just like immediately when I start writing, like I just my head goes to like what are the problems of the world, and one of the biggest issues I have right now is with immigration. So I have written a lot about that, or sung songs about it, protest, and just it's just this issue of humanity, like just it's close to my heart because I'm an immigrant, we're immigrants, and it's just devastating to see what's happening, how they're treating our brothers and sisters at the border, how a lot of them are coming from Central America and Mexico, and it's just I don't know, I just feel like, oh man, I just through my music, I just want to like be a voice for all these people who are voiceless, and I think that's like a big theme for me. It has been for a while.
I really think that this dividing way of thinking is so dated. Like, why is it that we don't understand that I always say this, like, we live in a big planet called Earth that is a big home, and you're from the bedroom Guatemala, and you're from the bedroom, Dominican Republic, and I'm from the bedroom Panama, and we share the common areas. What is the problem? Why do we have to divide? Oh, if you're a woman, you can do this. If you're a man, you can't. If you're from Latin America, you can't do this. If you are from this other place of the world, you can. So dated. I mean, we need to grow as human beings and stop this weird way of thinking where we don't understand that we're all sharing the same essence. In your case, Charlene, what do you want to leave behind when through your career and your voice?
I would say that for me, it's important for people to understand that no matter where you are at in life, what's your starting point, you can strive for whatever you want. Because honestly, my scenario of life, you wouldn't even thought for a second that I would be living off or doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in a family that was connected in any way. I was born in a country that didn't have the biggest platforms to offer me. And I wasn't, like, even getting to the States was a struggle. So I would just say that I want to inspire people to not give up, to just go for whatever that like they feel at heart that they're here to do. And to do it with kindness more than anything. I think that's important, to uplift others along the way. And, as females, I think we still have a long way to go. But I love, as I said, that camaraderie that we have right now, and the openness to help each other. So I would say that, like, just go full force in it, like, to do whatever you believe is that you want to do, but do it through kindness.
I do think that whatever lasts is what the path show you that it's worth. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. Like, whatever is sometimes hard for you to get, like what you just mentioned, when you get to the peak of the mountain, you say, thank you, because this whole path really transformed me, not only as a professional, but also as a human being. And if I can say something to you guys that are watching us out there, don't quit. This is the career of the people that don't quit. This career and whatever in life. Sometimes people are going to tell you you can't make it, especially if you're a woman. Stick to your values, keep evolving, be humble, but respect yourself and do everything with dignity. Don't let anyone step on you, and don't step on anyone. And at the end, the universe will open the right opportunity when you're ready for that moment in life. That's all I have to say.
Beautifully put, and like, whoa,
we're like 5 minutes away from closing this, this panel. So I was thinking maybe we can open up for some questions if we have people out there that would like to ask some questions through the chat before we say goodbye.
Yeah,
We're here ready to read whatever you have want to share with us.
Okay. ¿Qué mensaje le darían positivo a sus fans? En realidad las admiro a las tres, pero soy muy fan de Erika Ender, la amo.
Oh, ¿qué mensaje le darían positivo a sus fans? Díganlo ustedes. Eso es en español, así que no sé si les contestamos en español.
En español.
Dilo tú, Charlene, primero, que tú lo leíste.
No, eso mismo, lo que decía yo en inglés, y es eso, que no importa en el lugar donde estés empezando en tu vida, no importa los obstáculos que tú tengas alrededor, no todos empezamos no todos tenemos el mismo punto de partida, ni vamos a llegar al mismo destino, pero el punto es que arranques y que hagas de tu vida lo mejor que puedas, o sea, no te rindas, dale con todo, porque si lo sientes es porque lo puedes lograr. Entonces, ese es mi consejo, que no te rindas, lo mismo que decía Erika. Adelante.
Gaby,
ya dijiste todo, ya dijeron todo. No, a ver, y algo más que es importante para mí es también como nunca dejar de aprender, de seguir inspirándose. Creo que eso nunca va a parar, nunca hay que pensar que, ay, ya lo sé todo, ya llegué a este punto, ya, o sea, uno sigue aprendiendo de otras personas, no sé, yo creo que también es importante como que acercarse a otras personas que te inspiren a ti, ¿no? Colegas, músicos, maestros, maestras, eso.
y hay algo que yo pienso que siempre es una constante en la vida, es el cambio. Lo único que nunca deja de pasar es el cambio. Entonces, siempre digo, uno tiene que fijarse un sueño y crecer al punto de poder alcanzarlo, porque eres tú el que te transformas cuando vas en camino a ese sueño. Y luego miras para atrás y ves que eres un tú diferente, pero que en esencia eres el mismo. Entonces, esto es tan importante que la gente lo sepa, porque es muy bonito decirlo ahora que nosotras ya estamos haciendo una carrera de esto, pero muchas veces cuando uno está empezando, y me acuerdo, voy a sacar la cédula ahorita, pero cuando yo era chiquita había un programa muy famoso con Cristina Saralegui. Sí. Y yo escuchaba a los artistas diciendo, porque cuando yo era mesero, porque cuando yo llegué aquí y pasé trabajo, yo decía, ay, qué mentira, famoso, y todo es verdad. Sí, o sea, todo tiene un proceso, todo tiene un sacrificio, todo tiene un aprendizaje. Y si la gente entiende eso, sobre todo la nueva generación, que hay mucha gente de la nueva generación que como venimos de la tecnología, que todo está fácil en un Google o en cualquier aplicación, muchas veces eso nos confunde y no entendemos que la vida no está hecha de esa facilidad, que los tiempos del universo son distintos, que el ser humano tiene otros tiempos que no son los tiempos de la tecnología. Y que una vez que entendamos que toda recompensa tiene un esfuerzo, ¿me explico? Y que las cosas que se hacen con talento, con trabajo y con valores tienen recompensas mucho más grandes y mucho más a largo plazo, nos daremos cuenta de que el éxito inmediato no vale la pena, de que las cosas superficiales no dejan nada realmente positivo en este mundo y que nosotros los artistas que somos idealistas a través de la música tenemos una fuerza gigantesca y una voz gigantesca porque representamos al mundo. Entonces creo que tenemos que hacerlo con responsabilidad. Y eso me gustaría decírselo a la gente porque estamos en un mundo que confunde mucho con la superficialidad. Bueno, a ver, dice, ¿cómo reaccionaron sus padres al saber que querían ser artistas? Ya tenemos un minuto. A ver, ¿quién quiere contestar esa? Porque nos tenemos que despedir.
Bueno, Magali y Tanya, primero que nada, un beso a las dos chicas. Mis padres no querían, si soy sincera, no querían porque no entendían, no sabían qué, y todavía hasta el día de hoy no entienden mucho mi carrera, no entienden las horas que yo estoy trabajando a las 3 de la mañana, a las 4 de la mañana, no entienden nada. O sea que no ha sido fácil para ellos, pero ya lo aceptan y ya me apoyan, porque han visto, como dice Erika, que yo no entré a este negocio como una vía fácil, una vía rápida, una vía para ser famosa, no porque simplemente es algo que sentí en mi corazón que tenía que hacer, que me llena, que no lo puedo detener porque es una forma natural de expresarme, básicamente.
Gaby.
Mis padres, como les contaba, pues como estaban en ese medio, pues, mi mamá siendo locutora, mi padre siendo promotor, sí me apoyaron muchísimo desde pequeña. O sea, ellos siempre veían como en qué festival te metemos, en qué teletón, o sea, en todos lados estaba yo cantando de chiquita, me acuerdo, y cuando les dije que me iba a venir aquí a Estados Unidos y que ese era mi sueño, yo quería cantar, me apoyaron 1000%.
Bueno, en mi caso fue un poquito distinto. Mi papá toda su vida soñó con ser artista, entonces él fue idealista y dijo, dale hija, ve por tus sueños. Mi mamá, que es un poquito Virgo, un poquito más, sabes, estructurada, me dijo, de la música no se vive, hija, ¿qué estás haciendo? Igual me apoyó, pero siempre me dijo, yo sé que tú eres una yegua sin rienda y no te voy a poder aguantar. porque yo iba porque iba. Y me dijo, entonces lo que voy a hacer es darte las herramientas para que tú puedas defenderte en el mundo y para que hagas lo mejor que puedas con tu arte. Y por eso es que hablábamos al principio de la fundación y de que estoy ahorita en Panamá trabajando eso. Nosotros tenemos un proyecto llamado Talempro, que significa talento con propósito. Y es algo que quisiera también decirle a la gente, que todos, no importa si hacemos sillas, si somos buenos en matemática, si cantamos, si hacemos canciones, todos tenemos un talento. Y creo que la mejor forma, sobre todo en estos tiempos en que la solidaridad es tan necesaria, es ponerlos siempre en favor de la comunidad. Y siempre que seamos lo más responsables que podamos, para por lo menos dormir con la conciencia en paz. Les mando un beso a las dos. Gracias por este rato tan rico. Ya nos pasamos un minuto. Thank you, Zach, so much for giving us this space and time, for sharing our thoughts and our way of, or perspective of life as women. And thank you, girls. Your stories are amazing. You girls are amazing. And let's keep up the good work, okay? Besito.
Gracias.
A todo el mundo. Gracias, Erika.
Bye, besos a todos.